Hey guys, welcome back for our restoration project. So we're pretty much wrapped up now with our bottom end and closing up our engine case. We have all the trim on here. Everything looks and feels like it should. And we're ready to move on now to some top end work. So getting started today, we'll just go ahead and install one set of piston rings on a piston I have set aside. I've already pre-set up everything else. After that, we're going to start setting them up on our connecting rods, slide our barrels on, and hopefully we got something that looks and feels right.
Okay, so before we start assembling things, let's just take a quick look at our pistons here and see the difference in configuration and technology behind them. So this is the original Molly that came out of there, and these are no longer available for the 2.0, so we can't get another set of those. Even though I like to be as original as possible, we just can't get them. So I've went to a JE piston, and these were custom ordered to specification. So I wanted this anti-friction Molly surface applied. And this is supposed to be really good for wear and friction reduction in the cylinder. Also the design here, a lot thinner technology on our piston rings. You can see here how thin they are in relation to our original Molly. There's just one ring off the Molly. It's just quite a bit of difference in thickness there, just with the newer technologies. And they use some hardening treatments on these. The whole advantage to the thinner, newer technology here is that you just have less friction, and anytime you have less friction, you have less heat. So everything's just better performance with this design. Also, they're lighter weight, and this is right out of the mold at this weight. They can also do other things for you to relieve some of this area inside here and make them even lighter if you're into competition or racing. But I went with the full weight just for strength. So let's just do a comparison of weight with the piston and wrist pin on our original. So we're coming up with 4082.8 grams versus that guy in there, 474. So almost 10 grams lighter per piston. So add it all up, you're between 50 and 60 grams lighter for the whole rotating assembly. And then also, just like ordering out a custom ground cam, JE will put together the specs in which the piston was ordered, so they can reproduce this thing exactly for you should you need a newer piston made down the road. And then also I did a printout of the original piston that came out of the car. These would have been the specifications for this piston here. And then having a look at our assembly line here before we get started. So all these are set up and already dialed in, ready for installation on our connecting rods, except for one. Let's go ahead and do that and see exactly what's involved. Okay, so then getting set up here to get started. So what I've done is I made a page that I can refer to as I'm rolling through all my ring installations. This is going to be our thrust surface with our Molly coatings. This is just up and down as the piston rolls through the cylinder. We don't want any ring gaps in these areas, so what I've done is I've made a page showing where my ring gaps are going to end up. So our expander gap is going to be about 4 o'clock, which is going to be in this range here. Our oil rings, which go on top and bottom of our expander, is going to be at 10 and 2 o'clock, like so. Okay, and then our second ring I am putting at 9 o'clock. And our top ring I am staging at 3 o'clock. So everything is offset 180 degrees. This is going to be good for break-in, but you got to keep in mind that even after this thing seats and starts running, the rings are going to rotate around this piston to some degree. Okay, and that being said, keep in mind that everybody has their way of doing this. This is the way I'm doing it. Don't necessarily have to do it this way, but this is the way I'm going to do it. Makes sense for me, and I think we should be okay. One of the things I like to do when I'm installing the rings is I use a paintbrush, and I'm just using a little bit of our Motul oil, and I'm just getting down into the ring grooves and coating to make sure we have good coverage in there. And this will help to install them and help to seat them once we fire it up. Okay, and then let's put in our wristband retainer clip. The large pocket is your intake valve, small pocket is your exhaust valve. I'm going to start with the right side. It just clips in there like so. And then I'm going to rotate this away from this entry point to 12 o'clock up there. Our oil expander ring, that's going to go on first. And we got to make sure that we're not overlapped and hooked there. We're going to rotate that to about 4 o'clock. And then our bottom oil ring will go on next. And we're going to slide that to 2 o'clock. And then our top oil ring. And then we just want to rotate everything, make sure it's free, nothing's tangled, and we don't have our expander overlapping at the joint. Everything looks to be good. And then using the oil that I already have on my fingers for our number 2 ring. That's going to be 9 o'clock. Set that to 9 o'clock. And then our top ring to 3 o'clock. Fingernails are really helpful for this job. I like to grab behind it with my nail. I can use that as a tool to lift it. Okay, there's our number 1 ring. And then we want to make sure that all our top references are in the right place, facing upwards, here and here. Just verify everything once you're put together, double check your clocking to make sure you like everything, and then we're pretty much ready to install. And then just revisiting our ring gaps one last time. So our top ring was a gap between 14.5 and 15 thousandths. Second rings were coming in between 16 and 18 thou. And we like the second ring a little bit bigger. The reason they like it a little bit bigger gap is for a phenomenon known as ring flutter. And this should help to eliminate that. So the theory is that any kind of gases that get through the first ring have to get through the second ring to avoid the flutter, and that's why that's like that. And then our oil rings are typically a standard of about 15 thousandths. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to install now. I'm going to go ahead and install one side complete, just see exactly what's involved, what we need to do to put it together with not too much drama. Let me get that done. We'll take a look at it, and then we'll go through the other side step by step. All right, so we got our first side set up here and rotating and feeling like it should. Really not too bad getting everything into position and fastened. Our wristbands went in fairly nicely with the C-clips, not too many issues there. The only issues I really had was the Hazet ring compression tool, just getting comfortable with that and trying to figure out exactly what it likes and the right process in trying to slide these into position. Now let's go ahead and roll this over. We'll see what that tool looks like and exactly what the problem is with that. All right, so getting started then, I like to take my paintbrush and then coat the inside of my cylinder I already wiped this out with paper towel. And then a little assembly lube on my wrist pin. And then taking precautions for our C-clips. Don't want that guy dropping inside. O'clock. And then cleaning up any oil residue. Okay, so I've made a couple of attempts sliding this barrel on, and I'm running into the same issue that I did on the other side. So I'm going to make a slight modification to this tool so that it works better for us. So what's happening is I'm clamping down onto the piston. These little tabs here, which protrude out, they're supposed to be the shelf that the barrel rests on. The problem is if the barrel just slightly gets outside these guys, it will sit on there cockeyed and it won't compress and slide down. So these really need to be engineered just a little bit wider at the front. Being stainless doesn't really want to bend, but we need a little bit more width on there to hold the barrel, or I will be wrestling with this for the next 5 hours and potentially breaking a ring, and we don't want to do that. Okay, there's just a little bit more positive shelf right there. Let's see if that makes a difference. Okay, we're back installed. I'm going to set it back on there. And now I'm just going to sight down there and make sure that I'm completely sitting on the shelf before I give it a strike. Stay right about there. Nope. Okay, so we got something interesting going on here for the 6th time. So we can see, looking down in the barrel, that the piston is centered well into the barrel. So we don't have any issues there. And the top of the barrel is resting on those little tabs at the top. The problem I'm running into, if I don't tighten the band tight enough, then what's going to happen, I won't be able to compress my rings, and they won't come in to the barrel. But by the time I get to the bottom ring, and this is where it keeps happening, because of the design of the ring compressor and the design of the piston, you can see right here what's happening. So I'm trying to tighten the rings to compress them, which sort of deforms the band going around the rings. This JE piston design with the reliefs and the side cutaway there, this could be a real problem with this type of ring compressor, and you might end up with some broken rings. So an alternate method would probably be advised. I'm going to have to think what I want to do here. I can probably get through it by trial and error. I did on the last side, but I'm not sure how far I can push this before I have an accident and really regret it. So that's what's going on. We're deforming things, and you can see now the ring compressor is sitting down on the piston. So that's it. It won't go any farther. My theory now is if we're pressing too tight, we're distorting around this flat area of the piston, so I'm just going to be more relaxed with the band, and hopefully the taper on the bottom of the barrel will feed itself into the piston, and I don't have to worry about them being too collapsed. Let's see if that works. Well, that worked. That's what the problem was. Alright, just having a look down inside here, just double checking. If we had any issues with rings, it would show up here. You'd see a line where the oil residue is. We don't see anything there. There's no scratching or scoring, so I know we're in good shape. So the whole trick is with these JE pistons is to compress the rings, but don't compress them too much or you're going to be dealing with that flat spot at the bottom of the piston. So let's go ahead and put the other two together now that we know how to do it and see if it goes a little smoother for us. Try this again. Making sure everything is just dead center and as straight with our tool as possible. Not too tight. That's going to be the technique. Not very forgiving on these JE pistons. Let's go ahead and rotate one more time just to double check. Alright, that looks like it should. I don't see any issues with any rings in there. Beautiful. We're all lubed up and ready to go. Okay, we're in good shape. What a wrestling match. Honestly, guys, nothing on engine building should have to be that difficult. Okay, guys, so that's it for the Hazet installation tool. I was not ready for that at all. I had no idea that this would be a problem with a JE piston or something like a JE piston. So if you're doing a simple build, you're using original style, round profile pistons like our Molly here, you're not going to have any problems with this. It's going to go right on. It's really quite a nice tool for that. Once you modify the piston and you shave this off, give it a flat edge, you're really risking damage. If you're not used to doing something like this, you could easily break a ring on installation. So I'm not going to recommend this tool if you're doing a JE or a JE style profile piston. And that's the takeaway on this video. Wish I had something better for you and had some better news. Other than that, we did get through this safely. All the rings are in their proper locations. I can tell by the lubrication patterns, everything is where it needs to be. So we're not going to have any issues here. It's just really unfortunate that we had to wrestle with this to get these on. This shouldn't have been that big of a job. Most difficult installation ring project I have ever taken on. Nothing has ever come close to this tool. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.